بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So we continue on with the topic of fiqh class, but the topic of Hajj. Last week we covered Quran, the type of Hajj wherein you do not break the ihram, but rather the ihram continues from the Umrah through the Hajj. And today we'll be discussing Tamattu. Tamattu is basically, just as an overview, it's you do Umrah, then you come out of the state of Ihram, and then you enter into the state of Ihram for Hajj. This is generally what most people they do. Most of us, we generally do this, right? And so it's pretty straightforward. You go and you do the Umrah. After you finish the Umrah, you know you do your tawaf, you do your sa'i, you cut your hair or you shave, and then you're out of the state of ihram. And generally, you have a couple of days before the days of Hajj start, and then after the days of Hajj start, you put on your ihram for the 8th, for example, go to Mina, and then everything else is the same. At the end of Tamattu', you sacrifice an animal, not for any sins or anything that you committed, but rather for the gratitude of being able to perform Umrah and Hajj in one journey. Right? Being grateful to Allah Ta'ala that we were able to perform Hajj and Umrah in one journey, we sacrifice an animal. So now just quickly, he'll go over a couple of the rules. Most of the rules are not really applicable. A lot of the rules are, a bit more complex, not really applicable to us, but I'll go through some of it. Inshallah, I'll skip over some of it as well, which is unnecessary. So, التمتع أفضل من الإفراد عندنا. So according to us, as I mentioned, the best type of Hajj is Hajj Qiran, where you combine, right? Because it's harder. And because it's harder, therefore there are more rewards. Then you have Tamattu', which is, again, doing Umrah and Hajj. So therefore you're doing two things, more reward. And then lastly is Ifrad, where you're only doing Hajj. So he says here that Tamattu' is better than Hajj Ifrad, according to us. Right? And this is the most correct view. And then there's some other opinions as well, but this is the most correct view. He said, وَالْمُتَمَتِّعُ عَلَى وَجْهَيْنِ. He said the متمتع is of two types. متمتع يسوق الهدي ومتمتع لا يسوق الهدي. The one who takes the animal and the one who does not take the animal. Just a bit of discussion there, but we'll skip over it. وصفة, because we don't generally take animals anyways, so it doesn't really apply to us. وصفة التمتع أن يبتدئ من الميقات. The method of doing tamattu' is that you begin from the miqat, right? Wherever the miqat are. فيحرم بالعمرة. You start with Umrah. ويدخل مكة. You enter Mecca. فيطوف لها. You do tawaf for Umrah. ويسعى. You do sa'i. ويحلق. ويقصر. You shave or you trim. وقد حل من عمرته. Now you are done with your Umrah. Umrah is pretty straightforward, right? ويقطع التلبية إذا ابتدأ بالطواف ويقيم بمكة حلالا, right? You stop your talbiyah once you begin the tawaf, and you stay in Mecca in halal state, meaning you can do whatever you like. Just normal, everything is normal. فإذا كان يوم التروية, once it's the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, أحرم بالحج من المسجد الحرام. Then you'll wear ihram from the haram. When they say haram, it's just recommended to start from the haram. But most of us, what we do is we just go from the hotel. We wear our ihram from the hotel and then we leave. وَفَعَلَ مَا يَفْعَلُهُ الْحَاجُ الْمُفْرِدُ. He just summarizes the entire thing and he says that you do whatever the mufrid, the Hajj Ifrad, the one who does Hajj Ifrad, you'll do the exact same thing that he will do. Very simple, right? I mean, as we discussed previously as well, in detail. وعليه دم التمتع, right? You'll have to give a sacrifice for that animal for the gratitude of sacrificing an animal. And when you sacrifice an animal for gratitude, you can consume that meat as well. You can eat from that meat. Most of us, we just we pay someone to do it and they just do it and they distribute the meat. Right. فإن لم يجد ما يذبح صام 3 أيام في الحج وسبعة إذا رجع إلى أهله. If someone cannot sacrifice an animal, then they will fast 3 days of Hajj and then they'll fast 7 days after they go back to their family. Then he talks about, you know, adorning the animal and what are some rules related to adorning the animals. In the past, they used to cut the humps of the camels, for example, from one side. They would cut it to show that this is a sacrificial animal, right? But then the more correct view is that you should not do this because this harms the animal. It's unnecessary harm to the animal, right? And you can imagine, this is something which would not be recommended in our Sharia. Our Sharia discourages people from harming animals. So therefore, the more correct view is that you should not harm animals. فإذا دخل مكة, actually, let's skip a little more.
They cut the hump while the animal is still alive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They cut not the entire hump, but like some part of the hump, they just leave like some mark, essentially, which shows that this is an animal that's meant for sacrifice. Okay. Nowadays, what they maybe sometimes they pierce a hole into the ear or something like that, or they do different things, right? But essentially, as much as possible, we should try and limit harming the animal unnecessarily. Okay. This applies to Hajj. This applies to Udhiyah, everything. We are people who are generally very conscious of how we deal with animals. We as Muslims. Moving on. وليس لأهل مكة تمتع ولا قران. Right? وإنما لهم الإفراد خاصة. He says that um, someone who is residing within Mecca, they don't do Qiran or Tamattu because they live there, they do Umrah, they do all of these things, right? So there's no Tamattu or Qiran for them. They will only do Hajj Ifrat. So basically, from the hotel, they'll do Ihram and they'll carry on. Okay. Lastly, this is like the last masala. وإذا حاضت المرأة عند الإحرام. Right? And as I said, I will keep these classes very short. I think today was too short. That's okay. Alhamdulillah. So he says that when a woman she enters into the state, she wants to enter into the state ihram, but she experiences her monthly period. What happens in that case? Right? اغتسلت وأحرمت. She should do ghusl just to clean herself, not necessarily because of the hayd, not necessarily because of the period, but she should just clean herself, and then she will enter into the state ihram. This is very important. A woman can enter, just as a man, you can enter into the state ihram even if you are not clean and pure. Right? وصنعت كما يصنع الحاج. She will do whatever the haji he does or he or she does. غير أنها لا تطوف بالبيت حتى تطهر. Except she will not do tawaf of Baytullah until she becomes clean and she finishes her hajj. Now, so what does that mean? That means that um, she can essentially do everything. She can do wukuf in Arafah. She can go to Muzdalifah. She can obviously be in Mina. She can do Jamarat. All of these things. She can do almost everything except for tawaf of the Baytullah. Why? Because that's you should not enter. A woman should not be entering, or a man should not be entering the masjid if they are in an impure state. A man or woman, if they're in an impure state, then they should not enter into the masjid. So therefore, she should not do tawaf. Now, the scholars they explain, they say that sometimes a woman she goes for umrah, right? She goes for a week, for example, and it just happens to be such that those are the days that um, she experiences haid. Right? Ideally, couple of things. Number one, if a woman is able to try to, again, if again, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not advising anyone to take medicine in that manner or not, but if a woman speaks to her doctor, and they come to the conclusion that uh, her taking those types of medication will not harm her, then she can take those medication to delay the haid. She can take the medication to delay her period. That's some more. If that option is not possible, and she happens to, if she's able, if she knows that these days I will, I will experience haid. Now, if she can, try to do the umrah before, right, or after. Make sure that while you're there, you're in the state of ihram. She's in the state of ihram, but she does not go and do the tawaf and the umrah. Now, worst case scenario is that she is not able to take the medication and she experiences hayd during the exact days that she is supposed to be in Mecca, for example, right? And oftentimes, people are spending thousands of dollars, right, for hotels, for flights, and all of these. And to change them, it's extremely difficult. So in that case, some of our scholars, they have said that because of these difficult circumstances, a woman can do tawaf, but she'll have to sacrifice an animal, right? Because she entered and she did tawaf, in the state of impurity. So therefore, she will have to sacrifice an animal. This is for Umrah. And then Hajj, as I mentioned, most of the actions of Hajj you can do without tahar, without needing to be in the state of purity. So she can do that. Now, there are two things, right? Especially in Hajj, right? Is wuquf in Arafah and tawaf ziyarah. So he says that وَإِذَا حَاضَتْ بَعْدَ الْوُقُوفِ بِعَرَفَةٍ. Again, so if a woman knows that she's going to experience hayd before or after, she should try to wrap up, do wuquf and then do the tawaf ziyarah as quickly as you can before your hayd comes in, right, ideally. Now, if she does wuquf in Arafah and she does tawaf ziyarah, in that case, وانصرفت وبعد انصرفت من مكة, and she leaves from Mecca without ولا شيء عليها لترك طواف الصدر, and she doesn't do tawaf al-sadr, tawaf al-wida, what's known as, right? The final tawaf. That's okay, right? Because she had a genuine excuse, uh, she's excused from having to perform the tawaf wida, the final tawaf that we generally do. Okay, so this is the end of the detailed aspects of Hajj, the three types of Hajj. From next week, inshallah, we'll go into jinayat, which is those things that the crimes or the mistakes that a person can make when they are in the state of ihram. We'll discuss that in some detail, inshallah. And that's pretty much it for the chapter of Hajj, inshallah. That's all pretty much that we will cover, inshallah. Um, there are some aspects regarding to the animals and so on, but most of us we don't really deal with those types of things. Most of us we just sacrifice a sheep, for example, and if you need to, you sacrifice a bigger animal. We'll talk about what requires a smaller animal sacrifice and a bigger animal sacrifice over the next couple of weeks. Inshallah, we'll talk about them. Ji.
So after you perform the Hajj, there are minimum requirement to come out of the ihram. Can you go over that quickly with us?
After you perform Hajj,
Yeah, so Arafat, Muzdalifah, and then you come back and then you do the Jamrat, you did the stoning and so forth. But then you have to shave your head and then you have to wait for the animal to be sacrificed.
no, you have to wait for the animal to be sacrificed, and then you shave your head.
Right.
Yeah. So very quickly, there's a book there that I generally give out for those who are going for Hajj. I generally give that booklet out, and it kind of like highlights and summarizes what you have to do every single day. Eighth, there's not much. You go to Mina, you stay there. Ninth, that's where your busy day is. You're gonna be, traveling to Arafah, and then from there you'll be spending the night in Muzdalifah, and so on and so forth. Then the tenth, right? The tenth, you are going to the Jamarat. You'll pelt one of the Jamarat, the big Jamarat, and then you'll come back in Mina. You'll wait for your animal to be sacrificed. Then you'll shave your head or trim your hair, right? Either or. After that, you're pretty much done for the 10th as well. What you can do, some people, what they do is they go for Tawaf Ziyarah immediately. They go for Tawaf Ziyarah immediately. Some people, they take a rest for that day. I recommend, I mean, whatever is easier for you, right? So that's 10th. And 11th, you just go and pelt the three shayateen, and you can do it. The sunnah time is between Dhuhr and Maghrib. Before Dhuhr is not permissible. After Maghrib, it's makruh. So my recommendation is go after Maghrib. It's makruh, but it's better than going in the 120 degrees, 130 degrees heat with millions of people. So take it easy, go after Maghrib. It's makruh, but it's still permissible, right? So you go do your jamarat there, then you can go do tawaf at that. This is the second night, right? This is the 11th night, right? And then 12th, you come back, you do Jamarat, and that's pretty much it. That's the entire Hajj, essentially. I made it sound very easy, right?
I think the ministry, like ministry, have made it. They have some kind of fatwa that you can do the health in that system 24 hours.
Yeah, so they have some fatwa, right? That they allow, based on darura, they say that, um, based on darura, they say that you can do pelting of the shayateen before zawal. Whereas the vast majority of scholars say that it's not permissible to do. So why, again, they say based on darura, right? And according to me, I don't see a darura. You still have the rest of the night. I mean, it's makruh, but technically you have the night. You know what I mean? So my suggestion is to just delay it, go after Maghrib, you'll be perfectly fine there, inshallah. As opposed to doing it before Zawal, where it's, according to most scholars, they say it's not permissible.
I see there's a difference between Umrah and Hajj. Putting the ihram on, you say you can put while you are in the hotel, you can put ihram on.
You know, for entering into the ihram of Hajj, you can do it from the hotel. If you're already in Makkah,
All right.
you're already in Makkah, then you do it from the hotel.
Because for Umrah, you have to go to the miqat.
For Umrah, you must enter into a new ihram, for example, right? And then you come into Makkah. But when you are starting for ihram of Hajj, you're already in Makkah, so you're technically a temporary resident. And so therefore, your ihram will be from Makkah. We'll stop here, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Well, we just finished. So, barakallah feekum. Inshallah, we'll continue next week, inshallah, regarding the jinayat and those things that the crimes or the mistakes that people make in Hajj. جزاكم الله خيرا سبحان الله الحمد لله سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.